Guys, I'll be with you in 1 second and we'll start the show. What's up, guys? Sorry about that. Just had to take a quick phone call. What's up? Crush Live Poker here. We do this show every Monday, and we are live, and we're going early here because I am doing the TCH live commentary tonight, which starts at 7 Eastern time. So I'll be heading over there. I'll be missing the Patriots game, which is quite annoying. They're going to get killed. And then I just got a text from the owner of TCH, Brad Owen, is coming into town. He's going to be playing a 5-10 game on Thursday night, and they're going to be doing a meetup game on Friday. So that is going to be pretty cool. So it's Monday. It's October 5th. Like I said, we'll be back to a normal time next week at 5:45 Eastern, but usually we do this. But the best way to keep up to date with the live stream time, of course, is to turn notifications on and subscribe to the channel as well. And we've got a bunch of people here that have already called in on hold. So I've got 3 people here muted up, but let's get into it here. And again, I will be in the live chat here as well. So let's start with our first caller here. And this is the first caller, right? It says
Yeah.
Mike, but I thought it was Tim.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's my dad's old phone number, I think. Probably still has it on there.
Okay. So it's Tim. What's up, Tim? How you doing?
Yes. Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. All right. So, yeah, I have a hand from Saturday. It's a 1-2 game, a 300 cat at, like, Rockford Charitable Games in Chicago. It's the only live games that are going around Chicago right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's 6-handed. And I'm on the button. And I actually in my email I was wrong when I said it was the hijack that opened. It was actually under the gun when I was thinking about it.
Okay.
So the under the gun player has about 225, and I cover him
By
on
the
the button.
by the way,
And
when you're looking at six-handed and people say, "Oh, how do I adjust a short-handed type of play?"
mhm.
Under the gun is hijack. You just lop off the first. Like if you're looking at a
Oh,
chart, you just sort of
I thought that
lop off the first few positions. You know what I mean?
wouldn't that be the low?
Or
I
the
thought
low
that'd be the
jack.
low
Or
jack.
the point that I'm
Yeah,
making is you lop off the
yeah,
first
it's
few
different. Yeah,
positions. Right. Right. Okay.
yep,
So
absolutely.
225. Yep.
Yes. So under the gun opens to 7. Someone in the field calls, and then I call on the button with Queen 9 offsuit, and the small blind calls as well.
So how deep are you, by the way?
So I have like around 850. Within this is actually something that I wanted to touch on that I forgot about was like within the last 45 minutes, I got kings and aces and made about like 350 or $400 of those two hands.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple hands in between these where I would like open c-bet and everyone would fold, and everyone at the table was like hemming and hawing like, oh, you're running so hot, we shouldn't play any pots with you, blah blah blah. And then that kind of actually played into later on this hand how I decided to play it.
Well, Queen 9 offsuit is just not going to be a profitable call pre-flop. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
There's extra dead
No,
money
I
out there
I
too. It's just, I mean,
yeah.
again, you'd be wanted to incentivize the three bet with extra dead money out there, but
Mhm.
as far down as I would go here on the button would be like a queen jack off, and even that's heresy to some people. But I do
Okay.
feel like
Yeah.
on the button you obviously can call a little bit wider, but there is another guy in there which hurts your equity realization. I mean, that's really the
Hmm.
key. So we're very far from where we should be already pre-flop. But do the blinds call?
Yeah. The small blind calls, and that's actually one issue with my game is just playing the right hands pre-flop. I tend to play too many hands. That's something that I'm working on fixing, and hopefully will soon.
I mean, it really is
Um,
the easiest thing to fix. The problem with live
hmm
poker and
Yeah.
fixing it is just that the game moves so slow. A lot
hmm
of times there's kind of like a discipline type issue in the sense that, well, I'm only, especially for a recreational player, I'm only playing so many times. I know I don't drive to the casino to fold, but I mean, you could play
hmm
online even just for micro stakes, just to practice, getting the right hands in the right positions. And then, you
hmm
multi-table basically, but I mean, I
Yeah.
would say it's the easiest thing to do is to follow a chart pre-flop. But anyways, okay.
Yeah.
So four
That.
ways,
Yeah.
$28.
Yeah. So
Yep.
yep. And the flop is queen, queen, deuce, rainbow. So I flop trips, and then the blind checks, under the gun checks, the field player checks, and then I decided to check it back mainly because I think the under the gun player would probably bet with aces or kings, like any overpair. And the only hand that I could really see myself getting called with is another queen. And because I played queen 9, probably have a better kicker than me. So I would probably be behind at this point if I get
Well,
called.
I understand what you're saying, but in a 1-2
Hmm.
charitable game in Chicago, you're going to get called by pairs almost all the time. You just
Okay.
got to bet small. I would definitely start a bet. And,
Okay.
and again, the smaller you play, the more I think it's kind of older school thought where if you bet, it's almost more deceptive than checking and then waking up later on a later street
Okay.
because nobody expects you to bet. Now, with that being said, what I will say is that if you were to check certain types of trips, then you'd probably want to take the ones that you have the absolute weakest kicker with and bet
Hmm.
off the ones, so ace queen would be a bet, queen 9. If I'm just saying if somehow you have queen 9 suited or something, then maybe
Yep.
that's the one that you check, but I would just bet like $5 or $10 here. Honestly, I would just
Okay.
start a bet now. I just don't. I mean, I
Okay.
know the stacks probably aren't that deep, but I would just start a bet now for the most part.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Uh,
Um, and then so the turn is a deuce. So I fill up on the turn, and it's still rainbow. So there's no backdoor flush draws.
okay.
And the small blind checks under the gun bets 15, and then it folds to me, and I min raise to 30, hoping to get just like a crying call out of maybe ace high, and potentially get him to put more money in when I, have essentially the effective nuts, in my opinion, because I don't think he'd check pocket deuces on the flop,
Okay. And then the
and then he
small.
calls.
Okay, so small blind folds and
Small blind folds. Only one
so
call.
just a couple of things about this is that
Mm-hmm.
from a theoretical perspective, I would say if you were kind of trying to play this in a cagey way, you very well might just call here on the turn because you're
Okay.
not really necessarily raising anything else. Now, with that being said, I actually am a big proponent of implementing small bets and small raises instead of just calling. So if I were to say, hey, I
Okay.
want to slow play something, this is why I told you that on the flop, I actually prefer a small bet than a check. As
Mm-hmm.
crazy as it looks to some people on the chat, like on paper here, I don't hate the play here at all that you
Okay.
make. I think if you start to go larger, though, it kind of looks like you have a queen. Although I will say, though, that a lot of people in your spot won't raise a full house. So this is a little bit deceptive because you're sort of hyper fast playing. Whereas if the turn
Mm-hmm.
was like a 5 and now you raise the turn, oh, it's like, oh, this guy checked back, trip queens. But why would he raise the turn with a full house now? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get into the
Mm-hmm.
mindset of the
Yeah.
1-3 player. So I don't hate it. The other
Yeah, and
the other reason
it's
why you would want to raise here is because a lot of times you're going to get checked to on the river, so there's really
mm-hmm.
no benefit in just calling anyways because you the betting lead is going to go to you anyways at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I tend to do if I have like the board pretty much crushed, is I'll just like min raise pretty frequently if someone bets into me, just to try to build the pot a little bit and try to win as much money as possible.
Well, that's the goal. I mean, that's really the
Mm-hmm.
goal at the
Yeah.
small stakes is getting
Yep.
max value. So all right, let's go to the river.
Yep. Yeah. So the river's a 10, and under the gun checks to me, and then thinking that, like, I mean, I know, like, if he had a deuce, he would call probably most size bets on the river, but thinking he may not, just because when I raised on the turn as well, he was like, oh, I probably shouldn't call this, blah, 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 and then he put the money in. So then I just bet 30 again, and I'm curious about your thoughts there.
So UTG checks and the pot's about $88 and Hero bets 30. It's a little bit first of all, some people saying that this guy, I don't know if this guy has ace high here because it's from going back on the flop. I'm going back to the whole hand where there's this 6-handed UTG guy. I put the cutoff as a call, you call, and small blind calls. When he gets checked through on queen, queen, deuce, and the turn's a deuce, and then it gets checked to the under the gun, is he going to bet ace high here on the turn? It seems like an in-between type of bet, I feel like, with ace high.
Okay.
I almost think that he's got more of a hand like 8s, 7s, something like that. You also beat pocket 10s, which is maybe one of those types of hands that gets there. But the point being is that I feel like from hand reading, it would seem to me that he has a hand that beats the board here. So
Okay.
I think going with the whole you raise the turn when nobody would expect you to with a full house, I would tend to bet much, much larger, 65 to 70. And I think you'll get snapped by any pair that's going to board play, which they all will because it's queen, queen, deuce, deuce, right? It's not like a 10 came at the end.
Yeah.
Well, I would still play, excuse me, but you know what I'm saying? There's no counterfeit.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So, okay, so you bet 30.
Yeah, and then he tanks for a little bit, actually, and then just kind of throws in a call that looks like a crying call, and then I show down, and he doesn't show me what he has, so not sure what he called me with on the river, but...
Well, do you agree with me that he doesn't have ace high?
Yeah, that when you kind of talked it out, that does make a lot of sense, and my friends, actually, that I talked to about the hand, he was just like, in a text, he was like, yeah, your 7s are no good here, buddy. So he was kind of on the same page as you. In the moment, I was more thinking it was ace high, a type hand like that, but
by the way,
it wasn't.
I'm just going to go back and look at the stack. So he had committed 37 to the hand before the river, so he had about 190 left. Some people are saying jam the river, which would be a 2x pot size bet. So
yeah,
it just seems like a very, very large bet. I understand the concept of polarization there, but people are saying, well, you should polarize. But yes, but we still, I mean, that betting 190 probably won't show the highest EV against a range of pairs here, because if you bet 70 and get called 100% of the time, the EV is 70, right? if you bet 190 and get called, say, let's say you bet 200 just to make it even for our math, right? Let's say you bet 200 and get called 30% of the time. The EV on that bet is only 60. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how you look at it. So I don't know about the huge bet, but I do think that there was some more money to be made there. Once in a great while, you actually have a guy checking over pair here too, like aces or kings at this level too. So that's kind of a disaster because no matter how the board runs out, you're still going to get paid off. People just can't lay it down. But I appreciate the call. I really do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Brett.
All right, let's go to Hong Kong. This is, I believe, hopefully I'm not massacring this guy's hand, but he's connecting on the computer. And of course,
Hello?
hi, Chi, right?
Yeah, you can just call me Marco.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
that's my
Marco.
English name.
Marco from Hong Kong. So any international callers that, they don't want to phone call in, you can actually connect too as well on your computer. That is an option because we use like a conference service. So that is what's going on. I heard that Hong Kong is kind of a wild place now.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Pretty wild.
It's a very long story if we go into that.
No, we don't have to go into that, but yeah, it's definitely in the news. So you got a
Poker
hand?
is more fun, yeah.
You got a hand for us?
Yep. So in Hong Kong we don't have a casino, as some of you might know. So it's just a private game that some people organize. So I transfer the currency, so the stakes are similar to a 1-2 game.
Yeah.
In USD. So I am about $500 deep, and
so you are what, like 4,000 Hong Kong dollars?
Yep, around that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll do it in USD. Of course, I'm familiar with this because I've spent a lot of time in China and Hong Kong, and I want to say in Macau they use Hong Kong dollars.
Oh, yeah,
right,
yeah.
in Macau, but I've also played in games where they've used RMB as well. So, all right, 500 effective.
Yep. So the table's 9-handed, and under the gun opens to $8.
Okay.
And the middle position player, who is the villain, he flat calls.
Yep.
And I'm on the button where I look down at pocket jacks, jack of hearts, and jack of spades.
Okay.
And I just flat call on the button.
Okay.
And then the blinds fold.
So why did you? This seems like a spot that is absolutely ripe for a 3-bet because of that dead money that's in the pot. Now, I could sometimes see flatting jacks heads up, UTG versus button, and I could sometimes see flatting jacks heads up in the big blind against an EP raiser. But usually when you've got that dead money in the middle, this becomes a pretty automatic 3-bet pre-flop.
But I think what went into the mind is that one, I think the two players were relatively tight, and the second thing being that I think I previously 3-betted a few hands where like it's not really like nutted hands, so I just want to go another route and just flat call with a relatively stronger hand just to mix it up sometimes.
Okay, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Just remember that you are incentivized to 3-bet when there's dead money in the pot. So do the blinds fold out?
Yep, the blinds fold.
All right, so we're looking at about a $24 pot 3 ways. Okay.
Yep, so and then the flop is pretty interesting. Comes 8 of clubs, 9 of spades, and 10 of spades.
Okay, so you've got an overpair, right, with an open-ended straight draw, 8, 9, 10 with Jack, right? Okay.
So the under the gun player checks, and then the middle position player, who's the villain, he fires a bet of $20 into a pot of around like $24, $27.
Right.
So in position, I just flat call.
Okay.
Not really knowing what I should really do. I think I should just flat call in general.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I think that you have a hand that I don't think that you're going to get the fold equity from the types of hands that you want to get folds from if you like made some sort of semi-bluff with this hand, like 2 pair isn't going to fold. Plus you beat all 10. So it seems like it's a pretty straightforward call. Yeah.
So
UTG folds.
yep, UTG folds.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the turn is the 6 of clubs, which brings in the club draw along with the spade draw.
6 of clubs. Okay.
And this guy, middle position, fires another relatively large size bet of $50 into a pot of $67, I would say.
Wow, that's really interesting that he's betting here on a one-liner. So the one-liner appears on the bottom end. So it's 10, 10 9 8, right? Front door spades, you've got Jack, Jack of hearts, Jack of spades, and now he fires again on the turn. So it's 10 9 8 6. Front door spades, back door clubs, and he bets 50. Normally, some guys will usually kind of slow down here with two pair. Like if you flop like 9-10, if you flopped, 10-8 suited, 8-9, something like that. But it seems to me like, again, you still have a pretty, I would say, standard type of call here, because I don't know if this is, again, a spot that is bet all that much with two pair. And if it's the type of person that's betting two pair sort of without a lot of awareness, I don't know if he's going to fold if you raise. So it seems to me that this would be another sort of clear-cut call, especially to this sizing.
Yeah, I think this is the point where I think the hand really gets a bit confusing, because I think that I think he's betting for protection. Like he's probably got a two-pair hand like 10-9, 10-8, or 9-8, or like that's looking for protection. Like even though there's a one card straight, he's still betting, because I think, to be fair, the players aren't that competent and they tend to just like think very simply and just go for value and go for protection. Like I don't think he would check two pair, so I believe that I'm actually behind on the turn.
You don't think that he would check two pair?
I think yeah, I think
it's so are you actually thinking that you have value in turning your hand into a semi bluff here?
Yeah. So I was thinking about, because I hold the blocker to the nuts, right? Queen Jack. So I was debating whether I should make a move on the turn or assess on the river.
It's an interest. I remember you emailing me this. It's an interesting thought. Again, no solver is going to tell you how to play this. This is just my opinion from seeing, live poker type of stuff, that normally someone's going to slow down with two pair. And if it's the type of person that's betting two pair, they're not going to fold to a raise.
Yeah. That's what went through my thought, is that I don't want to raise on the turn, because I think I don't want to get jammed on by a set or two pair while I can still realize my equity on the river with my straight draw. So,
well, I don't think that you would get jammed on necessarily if you were to raise, but you could make it
raise very large. Yeah,
you could raise, to like 125, 150, and if he calls and the river breaks off, you could jam on him. But I mean, it's a thought. I just, in these types of games, though, especially when I was in China, that would be burning money in a lot of spots. But
yeah.
So you call, okay.
Yeah, so I just called the bet again.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking about making a move on the river, and the river is a brick, so the flush draws brick. It's a king of diamonds.
Well, that's not it's funny you say brick, because that's not a brick in the sense, I thought you were going to say like deuce of hearts, because if it was a deuce of hearts, I think it's a lot different, because, you take a look at having like 8-9 on a board like this, if he was continuing, that this river is worse, and it looks worse for 8-9 than like, a red deuce. But okay, so it's the king of diamonds.
So yeah, the flush draws miss. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So on the river, the villain slows down and he checks.
Okay.
So seeing that he pot controls the river makes me really believe that he has a medium strength hand, like a two pair hand, that I can't beat. So here's when I thought of making the move and turning my hand into a bluff.
I know where you're going with it. The problem here, though, is that the way that you've played this hand, which is basically just calling flop, just calling turn, right?
Hmm.
and the presence of two front door flush draws, or excuse me, the presence of two flush draws out there, a front door and a back door, I don't think that there's any way that this is going to get through. I just think that you're going to get snapped off here by two pair. By the way, too, you have some showdown value as well.
True, true.
This guy could be clicking buttons and have like ace 10, or he could have like, jack 10 of clubs, right?
Yeah.
Jack
So
10 of clubs would be like, top pair open ended and
yeah,
they turn to flush. So you beat those hands. So, especially if I don't think it's going to work and you also can win sometimes with showdown value, I would check this back as played.
okay. So I think the reason why I thought of bluffing, because like this game we played, the players they tend to just go for value and there's very little bluffs. So I just thought of like if I bet really large, then it would probably get recognized as like I have the goods in some sense.
But do you think
But
that he's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
check fold like 9-10 or 8-9, the hands that you're targeting though?
true. So I'm really debating between whether I have actually showdown value or I actually need to bluff. So it's really it's like right in between. So let me go to the result. So I fire a large bet of 160 into a pot of 167,
Okay.
and the villain tanks for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and he ends up making the call, and I thought that my hand was no good, and but still I flip my hand over, and he mucks his hand.
So your hand is good.
Yeah, so it was really to a surprise to me.
Yes,
I
but
even had, yeah,
this is it's a fun little story because this has happened to me in the past too. Not necessarily this will demonstrate though something, Marco. This happens to me in the past where I have made a very, very large bet to try to get somebody off of what I thought was a chop. Like, say, like an ace was top pair and my kicker didn't play, and I got called down by worse. What this demonstrates, which is quite interesting, and when you actually think about it, what this demonstrates is that you would never get a fold here from two pair, but is two pair actually any different than somebody holding, say, like especially jack 10? But you could even go so far as to say ace 10, but let's look at jack 10 specifically too, where he blocks obviously the nuts, but it doesn't really make any difference if he's got jack 10 or he's got 8-9. And some people would
yeah.
even say that jack 10 is even more of a bluff catch. But it goes
So
to
yeah,
show you the nature of the extreme sort of draws that have missed out here, the way that you've played the hand by flatting turn, that you actually got called by a 10. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So yeah, from the table talk later on, I guess that he probably had a hand like ace 10 that decided to bluff catch on the river.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the whole hand was just kind of confusing. I was so mixed between like bluffing and in the end I actually got more value than I should have, and I wasn't even trying to go for value.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. But again, like I said, this has happened to me a couple times in the past, but it is an example of positive variance that people would never really look at. And I always point back to my big sort of video on, revealing the most important live tell in poker that I did back in February on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out, where I got my hand turned from a value hand with aces up. I got counterfeit on the river and I turned it into a bluff catch, and the guy bluffed and I won. But if I hadn't gotten counterfeit, I would have just bet for value and the guy would have folded. Here, you are trying to bluff a spot where you're going to get called, and we can demonstrate that by the fact that you got called by a 10, but it happened to be the guy had a 10, so he called you with worse. So the next time you get a bad beat, like you get it all in with aces versus kings and you lose to kings, think about this hand though. You've got some good variance here too. Marco, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the call.
Thank you so much, Bart.
All right.
See you.
See you later. All right. So I don't know who this guy on 541 is, but I think it might be. Hold on a second. I gotta check in here. Is this the guy for Prodigal Thieves? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Hello?
All right. I'm going to get to you.
Hi, Bart.
Sorry.
My name's Leland.
Leland. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to get to you because you're not confirmed and I got to get to some of these other guys, but I'll get to you if you stay on hold. All right. Let's go to 438 from
Hey, Bart. Hey, how you
Montreal
doing?
area. What's up?
Hey, not too much. Yeah, I'm in Montreal. Had an interesting hand that I'd like to hear your opinion on.
Sure.
Yeah, so quick backstory. So with COVID-19, both of our casinos are closed. So the only option is home games.
Okay.
So this hand is from a private 1-2 home game with a $500 cap.
Okay.
But you can match the stack, and if you ask the table nicely to put more money, they'll let you, etc. So it's a pretty casual environment, but there's a dealer, they're taking rake, and there's a cocktail waitress, etc. So in this hand, so the table's very deep. Most people have over $1,000.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of interesting spots all night because of how deep it is, and people are opening to a reasonably small size compared to how deep the stacks are. So a typical open is 15. And in this hand, I opened for 15 under the gun with pocket sixes, and we go 7 ways to the flop or something like that. It just calls all around. And that's not happening every single hand in this game, but it just goes to show that there is some seriously loose play happening at times.
Sure.
A lot of drinking involved, etc. So the flop comes Jack, King, 6, all spades.
Do you have the 6 of spades in your hand? Oh, you don't?
No,
Sorry.
I have
Jack,
2 red
King,
sixes.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it's a monotone board.
Got it.
All spades.
Got it. All right. So I'm gonna put 6 of clubs, 6 of hearts for your hand. So it comes out King, Jack, 6, all spades. So you have bottom set, but you're up against like 6 other people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And the small blind checks, big blind checks, and I decide to lead out for 60.
60 into 105.
But yeah, about. And by the way, so with the main villains, we're playing about 1,200 effective. I have 1,200. They both cover me. So I lead 60, and then the guy to my left jams his short stack for 280.
So like +1, all in for 280. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple folds, and then the button calls the 280.
Okay.
Now the small blind folds, and then the big blind, he visibly contemplates the situation and then even goes out loud, "Oh, I don't know what to do," etc., before putting in the 280 himself.
Okay, so you raise it to 15 with 6 of clubs, 6 of hearts from under the gun. There's like 6 callers. The board comes out King, Jack, 6, all spades. You flop bottom set, checks to you, you bet 60. This guy to your left was a little bit short, moves all in for 280. It folds to the button. He calls, and the big blind also calls, and I'm assuming that you call, right?
Yeah, so I did call, but, and to be honest, I was not loving it. And if I'm going to look at what kind of ranges I'm putting people on, more often than not, I felt like I would have one out. Now, the reason why I didn't throw it away is, well, first off, I said, how can I fold a set in a home game full of people drinking? And second off, there's that element where you see some weird things that shouldn't necessarily happen, but do happen. And there's been a few occasions of that all night. So I said, maybe some people have top pair. One of the
or
has
what about if somebody's slow playing a couple of flushes or the nut flush or something? I mean, you're getting such a price here, right? 280 call,
right?
Call. I mean, after your call, the pot's 1225. I just did the calculation, but it's probably like 900, like 280 for you to call, or something, 900 and change.
220, yeah, because I put 60 in. So right.
So
fold,
right? You can't fold. But what you're saying is you're concerned about somehow like someone having King Jack. I think what's more interesting here is whether or not you bet on the flop here, and I would tend to say yes. And the reason why I think it's more interesting is because it's really hard to like plug in a bunch of pre-flop ranges. Like when you look at somebody like say V-pipping, like let's say all players V-pip the top 35% of their hands to a single raise. It's like, how do you define that 35%? Let's say that they favor suited hands. What's the chances that someone has already flopped the flush here? But what I would look at this board though, is that this becomes almost a slam dunk bet for me because you've got a bunch of the high cards that are on the board that are also represented in people's ranges. Like if the board was, for example, 6 deuce 3 all spades, you could make probably more of a case where almost that becomes a check. I would still probably tend to bet for protection for the fact that people are going to call with high spades, but here you're going to get called more often because people like to play sort of like offsuit Broadway types of hands or something like that. But I would not, I think calling is clear cut. You don't want to get yourself into, it seems like one of these guys could easily have flopped the flush here and is trapping.
Well, that's what I was saying. I figured one guy probably has a small flush, and that's what I was thinking, that either the short stack or the button had. And then I figured the big blind, he either has king jack or he has the ace of spades. And one of them he's drawing, right? Just the way that he really thought about it or he has a king with a queen of spades. I don't know, something like that, right?
All right. So
anyways.
We've got this main pot. Now we're going to build a side pot. What's the turn?
So the turn is a 7 of spades.
Oh, okay. So 4 spades now.
Right.
Okay.
And the big blind checks.
Mm-hmm.
I check, and the button also checks.
So big blind checks, hero checks, and button also checks. Why do I think I'm missing a player in? No, because the other guy's all in. Okay, there's only 3 people in. Right. So big blind checks, hero checks, button checks, and I think that's pretty standard, right, for you. You don't want to put money in now on the turn. So it's good that it got checked through. Right. Good. It's good that it got checked through. Right.
Yeah, there's no stack in the pot already, right? But yeah. Anyway, so the river comes a jack and pairs the board.
Okay. So you fill up.
And now the big blind leads out for $500, which in this game is a big bet. It's not a unheard of bet. There's probably one or 3 points in the night where somebody's betting about $500 on the river, but it's a sizable bet.
So this gets into, this is why I think this hand is pretty interesting. And I understand what you're saying about big bet. So if he bets 500 and you've already put 280 in, or he's already put 280 in, after the 500, I would say he probably has about 700 left, right, in his stack. So he starts probably the river with about 1200. I know this is all approximate, but what's really interesting here is that, I know you still have to beat the guy that's all in, and I know this is just a side pot, but I can't see somebody getting away from the ace of spades here, unless you think that this is where live poker comes into play, because some people could make the argument that this bet is just so ridiculously strong. And this is where a lot of people that don't understand live poker and sort of small stakes is that, 500 into 1225, right, is only 40% of the pot.
Right.
But the bet is not a 40% strength. The smaller the pot is, the more a full-size pot bet doesn't represent anything, meaning that, like, if somebody bets 10 into 10, that's 100% of the pot, right? But when someone bets 500 into 1225, that's stronger than 10 into 10, even though it's 40% of the pot. It's all about the absolute value of the bet, right? It's the absolute size of the bet. Now, when he only has 700 left, I think it's probably pretty close, because when I looked into this in paper, I want to kind of jam here. I really kind of want to jam here because I don't think someone's going to fold the ace of spades. But a lot of guys get shy on the river when the board pairs, and I don't know if this guy would bet 500 with the ace of spades. The other thing, too, is that if you jam and it's the other guy behind you that has the higher full house, then you're really fucked, because you got a couple things going on here. Like, you just call, the guy jams behind you. You could easily, and especially if this guy calls from up front, you easily make a case for getting away from it. You save your last 700. The other thing, too, that you don't want to do is drive the ace of spades out of the hand behind you. So it's all because there's a guy behind you here you don't. I feel like the more I think about this, maybe it's just a flat, even though at first on paper I was like, oh, I would just jam this all day. But with that third player in the hand, I think, and at this level, I think I probably just flat.
Yeah, and another quick note is the two guys that are left in the hand with money to play are the least bad at the table. So I'm not going to say they're great, by any means, but they were doing the least amount of weird things. So I'm asking myself if he has the ace of spades or if he has a boat, right? And I ended up leaning towards thinking that I think I'm good here. I'm obviously not going to lay this down, but I don't think there's a ton of value in jamming because, I'm still worried about the other guy. And maybe if I call and then the other guy jams and then the other guy calls or goes all in over the top because they're playing very deep, they probably have an extra 800 to play for, then I guess I can just muck my hand, even though it's so ridiculous.
Well, that's what no, I think that you can muck if you call and then it goes raise call. For sure. I mean, that's part of the reason why I don't want to jam here. Some people in the live chat are even saying fold now. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, you're going to fold a full house the way that this hand is played out in a game where a $15 open from under the gun just got 6 callers. I mean, think about that, guys. I mean,
right.
I think the play is to call. Did you call?
Yeah, I ended up calling and losing.
So what happened?
I lost.
So what happened?
So I called.
Yep.
And then the button folded Queen 9 of spades face up. So he'd flopped the flush.
Right. So the button was slow playing a flush.
Yeah.
He got a bad turn card and checked it through, and now he recognizes that he can't call with the second nut flush, obviously, on a paired board, right? When it goes 500 call.
With 4 spades on the board.
Right.
So his hand is effectively useless at this point, right?
Right.
So he mucks that face up.
Yep.
The +1, he ended up having ace jack with the ace of spades, so that's what he had jammed. And the big blind had king jack offsuit or some shit like that for jacks 4 kings.
Wow. So the guys got king jack, huh? The good old king jack. Well, I mean, I don't think that you really played it badly on any street, to be honest with you.
I mean, my main question with the call is, can I ever fold the flop? Because that was the point. On the river, I didn't think too long at all. I said, okay, could easily have the ace of spades. If I win, I win. If I lose, I lose.
I have a very hard time folding a flop like this, and the reason is because of the pre-flop action, there are not going to be oversets that are represented here. I'm assuming that people are always going to 3-bet off with kings and jacks. Now, I understand there's a possibility of king jack, but where you would fold the flop on a monotone board with bottom set is if you could easily be overset.
Right.
Like, if the board had come out like 6, 9, 10 and people flatted with 10s and 9. You know what I'm saying? Or 6, 8, 10, people flat with 10s and 8s and stuff. But
yeah. I
wouldn't
thought the
fold.
same thing.
I wouldn't fold the
thought
flop.
Maybe someone could be in there with jacks, but even then, kings is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
So,
yeah. No, I get it. But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks.
All right. All right. So Cameron 781, I'm going to get to you here in a second, but I want to go to this guy 541 because he's been waiting. Leland,
right.
Is that what you said? Leland?
Yes, Leland.
Hey, Leland.
Good
what's
talking
up?
to you. Thank you for taking the call.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got a hand coming out of, I guess, just the Medford Poker Room over in Oregon. We're playing 1-2. It's pretty early in the morning. Game's been running for probably 12 hours. I'm sitting a little over, or just a little under 1,500. There's an older villain to my right. He's probably in his early 70s, playing pretty tight, pretty aggressive, but I haven't really seen much of him.
Okay.
He's sitting on 1,400, and then the main villain, or the other villain in the hand, is kind of a crazy Asian guy. He's lost probably $3,000 in the game at this point, and he's sitting on about 500 to start.
Okay.
So it folds around to the button, who's the older guy, the older tag, and he goes ahead and he just calls. I'm in the small blind with ace-7 of diamonds, and I go ahead and complete here. Normally this is a raise for me, but the crazy Asian guy just being tilted has been 3-betting probably half of his hands at least, and pretty much every time I'm in a pot, I think I made a big call down against him with ace high, and I think it kind of set him off. So I've been playing my range is mostly limps to limp raise, occasionally limp fold, and occasionally limp call. That was kind of my first question is, are you isolating here at 250 big blinds effective, I guess? Or plus,
Well, so
you...
I know that you said this, but can you just give me the button stack again and the big blind stack again?
The button stack is the older gentleman. He's at 1,400,
Okay.
and the crazy Asian guy is in the big blind, and he's at approximately 500.
So this
I
guy,
have them both covered.
this older guy limps in for 2 on the button, right? Is that what happens? He just limps in for 2? Yeah, I would raise.
Yep.
I would raise to drive out the
Okay.
big blind for sure. I mean, your hand's going to stand to be a favorite anyways. I mean, I know you're out of position, but I mean, it's not a huge thing, but I would certainly raise. So you complete. What does the big blind do?
Yeah. So I complete. The big blind makes it 32, and the isolation
32.
raise on his part wasn't odd at all.
16x, huh?
Yeah, 15x over the top. So 30 over the limit. Him isolating wasn't unusual, but the size was. I'd actually kind of planned on more than likely re-raising to like say a $20 isolation raise if this guy did it, and I'd done it maybe 3 or 4 times already. Put him in some pretty ugly spots.
So what did the button
hand.
do?
The button called, and then I ended up calling, and I kind of thought this was a mistake, but it's not something that comes up super often where you're playing that deep, and I didn't know. Being out of position really sucks.
Well, I mean, here's my thought on this is that, I mean, this is great that we get to sort of exemplify, and the computer guys are laughing about 16x. The guy open limps and then calls a 16x raise from the big blind.
Yeah.
And then
and I mean, yeah.
I mean, so yes, you're getting like 2-1 here ish, 2-1, but it is a big raise size and he's kind of shallow. I actually, if he's a crazy Asian guy and you've played it this way, you could almost just limp re-raise the guy. I mean, the old guy's going to fold if you make it 200. I mean, I know it kind of seems gambly to get in 500 with the ace-7 of diamonds, but if he's really been that wide, then, it sort of is what it is. But, okay, so you call.
So,
I mean, yes, the answer is you don't need to defend to a 16x raise with ace-7 of diamonds. But, okay, we're there. So the pot's $96.
Okay, yep. So the pot's 96. I think they took like 5 out for the,
all right, so
we'll
call it 90.
Whatever. I calculated it approximately $90.
Mm-hmm.
The flop comes out King of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds, and I believe it was a 6 of Diamonds.
King of Hearts,
so we flop,
Queen of Diamonds, 6 of Diamonds?
Correct.
Okay.
So we flop nut flush draw.
Yep.
I checked to the Asian guy, expecting him to bet a lot actually. Instead, he ends up checking, and the older, tight, aggressive guy bets 75 into, call it 90. This was kind of second decision point. I thought I was better off against that sizing. I thought I was better off calling. I think raising into it, I'm going to be against a lot of potentially 6-6, potentially king-queen off, and I'd seen him limp that a couple of times. But I thought a lot of combo diamonds, which I'm doing okay against, but I'm not great against the range, so I kind of rather keep him a little bit wide. And I want the Asian guy in. I thought it was a mistake to raise because I want the Asian guy in.
Here's my thought is that, yeah, I mean, when this guy takes this type of sizing, especially against the preflop raiser who has checked, it usually is going to skew it towards a lot of king X here. We wouldn't assume that he has ace king because you have an ace and he didn't raise pre, but king queen off might be a hand that he limps with king jack, king 10. And then I guess there's a possibility he could have king X of diamonds, like king 9 of diamonds, king 10 of diamonds. So, this is what I talk about sometimes, attacking the field better on Crush Live Poker. And what that means is that it's when the preflop raiser checks post-flop and somebody in the field bets, you can attack them a lot. I wouldn't necessarily do it on this board, though, where someone's basically saying, hey, I have a king. I like to do it more on boards that are of dynamic nature, like 9-4-3, where somebody might be stabbing with 7s or 8s or 9x, and it's going to be very difficult for them to hold on. But this is more of a static top pair where the top pair is not going to, it's not going to change. I think it's probably a little bit weak to just fold, especially with the nut flush draw here, and your ace might be good here too. Yeah. So I would probably call.
Okay, so that's what I did. And I thought, again, against that sizing that his range was skewed primarily towards having a made hand and probably king X, pretty decent hand. So I called. The Asian guy thought for a little while, probably 30 plus seconds, which was actually slow for him. I mean, he's usually pretty quick to act. And then he ended up calling as well. So I kind of thought that he had like a nothing sort of ace 10, ace jack sort of hand, maybe pocket jacks, pocket 10, something that was moderate and he was getting stubborn with.
So the pot's about 315 because you guys have put in 225 on the turn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So pot's 315. The turn comes an ace of clubs.
Okay.
Kind of a weird card. I ended up checking. The Asian guy checked as well, and now the old guy bets for 300, so just under pot.
Wow, the old bad guy bet again here?
Old guy bet again. And this kind of confused me because my take was same as yours. Is that his flop bet is going to be a lot of value, but the ace doesn't really help a whole lot of value hands, and it hurts a lot of them. Like sixes make a lot of sense. You know, he's bottom set and just blast away. I didn't think he would take that sizing with Jack 10 on the flop, to be honest. So I kind of heavily discounted that, and that might be a mistake on my part. But I just didn't see it on the flop. I just kind of trust myself in those spots.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I also just think that King Queen, like, does King Queen take this sizing? Because, you know, if the guy understands a little bit about poker, he's got to be a little bit concerned about, you know, Jack 10 coming from the call and a call. So I wouldn't usually see this full kind of sizing here with King Queen, which would be like middle two pair.
Yeah, and that's what really kind of threw me off because I expected a bet, but nothing near that sizing. And then the way stacks are set up, you know, he bets that he's got about $1,000 behind essentially. And I don't think that it's
could
all
he?
that
Let me ask you a question. Could he have ace king here? Could he limp call ace king on the button?
I don't think so. He'd been raising his really good hands. He'd been limping some like king queen offsuit, but he was playing fairly straightforward. I'm not going to say it's impossible because it's live poker and, you know, laugh out loud, but I'm going to say it's highly discounted. Like I think I just 16 combos. I don't think he plays like this.
I think I just fold. I think I just fold. Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying about but it's almost a full size pot bet. Yes, you have two pair. I should not two pair.
I have one pair.
You have top pair, top pair. So you might occasionally have some equity against like, you know, two pair types of hands like king queen. It's unlikely that he's got diamonds here. I guess there's a possibility he could have king X of diamonds, king jack of diamonds, king 10 of diamonds. But again, it's a question of whether that's a best case scenario and that he continues to drive forward. You know, there's always a chance something weird is going on here with the big blind. Like maybe the big blind overcall with ace queen and now he's got aces up and you're never going to get that fold either. So, you know what I'm saying? So I think I just fold here to this big bet.
Okay. And that was kind of my thought. I thought the hand over quite a bit afterwards, talked to a couple people with through Discord or whatever. And that was kind of the consensus was that fold is probably best, and if I'm going to do that, I should probably only just call, and raising, given stacks, is probably pretty speedy, which was ultimately what my action was. I ended up shoving. I just thought he was full of crap, and that I was the most likely person to have Jack 10, given the flop read of the guy, and just kind of look at the flop read on his sizing and.
Well, I mean, you could. I mean, you can shove as a semi bluff if you think he's going to fold out everything. You know, that was again. It's like one of these scenarios where you kind of have to look at the guy. Where if a guy that's betting 300 with king queen here on the turn, or betting 300 after limp calling with ace king, is that the type of guy that's going to fold out their hands? Oh, I lost this guy. I wonder if he's going to... That's my take. This guy got disconnected. Hopefully he'll give a call back. But my take here is that I don't think that you're going to get the folds from this type of, sizing here, with Jack 10. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the hero and the small blind credibly, reps, I would say, Jack 10, you could say well, but I still just don't think that we're necessarily going to get the folds, really. I want to see if I can find... this guy's name was. What was this guy's name here? I want to see if I can find the answer. If he gave me the answer. This was. So that we can find out what he had or what happened. No, that's not it. It is Prodigal. This guy from Montreal. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can find. Oh, I don't think I ever. Oh, no, I do have the answer. Hero jams, and both villains call. So he jams and both villains call. The Asian guy and the guy on the button. The river is the 5 of diamonds. So the hero makes the nuts. King of hearts, queen of diamonds, right? Ace of clubs, river, 5 of diamonds. Both call. And let's do a reveal. Crazy Asian shows Ace 10 of spades. Old Tag shows King 10 of diamonds. Hero scoops with Ace 7 of diamonds. So Hero needed to knock out, I guess, the Asian guy, which didn't work. Because if the river was a brick, Hero wouldn't have won because the Asian guy would have won, but he would have beat the Old Tag. And the Old Tag had King 10 of diamonds. I mean, I think that's just absolutely the best case scenario. People are saying that's a big pot. That's a $3,000 pot at 1-2, but I still think that folding turn, I would say is the play there. All right, let's go to our last caller here. This is Cam in the Boston area. Cam, you must get bothered by your name nowadays in the Boston area.
Oh yeah, all the time. He's doing well though.
Yeah, I'm unfortunate. I mean, I like I said, I rarely ever miss Patriots games, but I had scheduled. Obviously, I didn't know the game was going to be tonight. Right, it starts right at the time the TCH live starts. And Patriots are going to get. I can't remember last time Patriots were 11-point dogs, but I mean, we had it really good where Brady just never really got injured except for that one season. But 11-point dogs with Brian Hoyer. It's not looking good. Oh, one other thing too. Some people were asking me in the chat, hey, do I not put the live stream up? I don't put the live stream up publicly anymore. Of course, we take the best calls and then we will graphically display them. But you need to subscribe to the channel to get the link, basically. But I'm not going to be putting them up public, or because it's not really fair to CLP subscribers, because this goes up as a podcast as well. If you subscribe to Crush Live Poker, you can get the show as a podcast as well. All right, Cam, are you really from Lynn, Massachusetts?
I'm from the South Shore, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's right. Oh, your phone is coming up, Lynn. Oh, that's right, because I sent you that Barstool thing about North Shore beef. All right, you got a hand for us?
Yeah, so it's 1-3 MGM National Harbor. About a month ago, so we're 7-handed.
You're in Washington, D.C.?
And yeah, just for this event.
Okay.
Okay, so the main villain, this is a heads-up pot. He's in his mid-20s. He's got headphones on. I haven't really seen him get out of line. He's playing pretty straightforward. And I have King 10 of spades in the low jack.
Okay.
I've got about 850 in my stack. And I open to 15. And it folds to the button, who is the villain, and he makes it 35.
And he has you covered?
He has me covered. He's got about 950, 900.
So a very small 3-bet.
Yeah, very small.
Okay.
So I end up making the call. What are your thoughts on that? Like, I don't think I should be.
Well, you can't fold. I mean, you can't fold to a
small.
You said you opened for the hijack, right?
Low jack. 15.
Low jack. Even if it's a standard 3-bet, I mean, yeah, this is a defend low jack versus button, King 10 of spades. I mean, it's sort of down in quality of, if you look at the suited broadways, Queen 10 and King 10 are sort of the worst ones. So, but you start to fold those out when like you open and then there's a caller and then there's a 3-bet and you're going to be in the middle. But yeah, I mean, it's a slam
Right.
dunk call to normal sizing. To 30, I don't think you can fold any hand to 35.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw a lot of people saying that I should be just folding this, but
15 to 35 with king 10 of spades?
yeah, people say that. I don't. I mean, seven-handed too.
So it gets folded back around to you
But-
and you call?
Yeah, I call
And they're heads up, right?
heads up.
Okay.
And so the flop is ace of spades, queen of diamonds, eight of diamonds.
Ace of spades, queen of diamonds, 8 of diamonds, and you have king 10 of spades, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I check it over to the villain, and he bets 50.
50 into 75.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So 2/3.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I think you have to call here. I mean, you've got a gut shot to a jack, you know, overcard to second pair, backdoor spade draw. You could see 2 cards, even at 2/3 sizing. Yeah. I mean, I think you have to call.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
I know this kind of smashes his range, but yeah, so I make the call.
Mhm.
And the turn's the jack of diamonds. So I drill the straight.
Front door diamonds
but
come in
there
though,
is
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
front door.
Did you say this was an old guy on the button or was it a younger guy?
No, young kid, headphones on.
Okay. So I think I remember where this is going. Again, notice that the flop is ace of spades, queen of diamonds, 8 of diamonds, turns jack of diamonds. So you make a straight here. Pot's 175.
Right.
Okay.
So I check it over to him. I feel like I could probably, I don't really have a donking range, but I feel like I could probably lead out here sometimes.
Yeah,
But,
I don't. I
I
was
check
thinking.
it.
I was thinking about the same thing too. I don't know if we always think about, from a theoretical perspective, how leads from the blinds, especially in single raise pots, are very common on the turn when something were to, sort of favor your range. And I would think and the reason why that is because, like when middle pair pairs, right, you're going to have more of those cards than not. I would tend to think that going along with that theory, you are supposedly theoretically allowed to lead turns in a 3-bet pot, because the theory here is that you'll have more suited hands than he does because you're opening and defending as opposed to him 3-betting. And you probably have more king 10. Although I don't know, maybe he does. Maybe he 3-bets just as much king 10, but I would tend to say that you have more suited hands here, so
Right.
you're allowed to lead. And if I was playing against somebody where when they 3-bet, they're gonna have like big pairs, ace king, I would definitely lead the turn. I mean, again, it's an old school thought. Usually against like older players, like thinking about my days of old times back to like the mid 2000s, where someone's 3-betting me, he's got aces, kings, queens, ace king, I'd lead the turn here for sure. Now if it was an offsuit jack, then you can go for a check raise to build the pot up, but a lot of times this is going to be reflected with a check through. So I mean, that's kind of what my thoughts are. But you could, if this is a young guy, you might want to play it. Obviously I don't have a problem with checking.
No, I totally agree. So I check and he bets 175. So he bets pot basically. And
hero checks and button bets 175. So basically full size pot, right?
yeah, I think pot's like 174 or whatever.
I mean, I think at this point, now that he's taken this sizing, you just sort of run this into bluff catching mode. You know what I'm saying? You probably just, once he takes this sizing, I'm probably just going to go check call, I would assume, for the most part. What's interesting here is that, if he's got the primary hand that someone has when they're running a bluff, when the third flush comes in on the turn, is having like the ace of that suit. Like, for example, if the board was like queen 8, 3, 2 diamonds, right? Now the turn was the 5 of diamonds. He had ace jack with the ace of diamonds, right? He continues to bet turn. Here, what's interesting is that the ace of diamonds would be paired, of course. So, if he had ace 10 off, ace king off, like, is he starting to polarize here with like ace king, ace of diamonds? I mean, I would call. for the sizing now.
Yeah, it's a confusing spot because I mean, I don't. The sizing really threw me off because is he doing that for value? Or is he doing it more as like a semi-bluff protection? Maybe with like a set he's protecting there. If he doesn't want another diamond to bank off or something. Yeah, because like you said, I have a lot more flushes and straights in my range, so the sizing definitely confused me. But I end up making the call.
Yep. So it looks like it's 525.
And yeah, the river's 9 of hearts.
Okay.
So any 10 makes a straight. It doesn't really change anything else. And I check it to him, and he rips his stack in my face, which is like basically
Yeah, but it's
pot a little over pot.
But yeah, I was gonna say, but it's not something crazy though, right? Because you call 175 on the flop,
right. There's no
225, 250. I mean,
I think he
it's
probably
like
has like 600 left.
right? Yeah, I mean, if you're telling me he's a young guy here, yeah, I would. I mean, has to be one of the hands that you call with that aren't flushes. Because who knows if the guy is even like, I mean, I'll give you another case too. Is that like, I'm not saying this, but I've seen stuff like this. Say he did this with like ace 10 offsuit, with the ace of diamonds or something. Like, who's to say that he's not value betting a straight here at the end, right? You said it's a one-liner to a 10, so you're beating a naked 10, right? I understand what you're saying about large sizes and stuff, but like I said, I mean, sometimes I would make folds like this years and years ago if I really, really knew the player, but I can't imagine myself folding here now, especially if you're saying he's sort of a young guy that looks like did he have a backpack on?
No, he didn't. I made sure of it. he was vibing. It was a fun table. We were all drinking and stuff. So like, the thing is, I hadn't seen anyone get this. Like it was playing like a pretty straightforward 1-3, and I don't know, like.
You're saying he's putting a lot of money. He's putting a lot of money into the pot.
Yeah, exactly. That was my main thing going into it. I ended up making the fold, and looking back at it, I probably should have called, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't think like that many people are bluffing there. Or, I mean, I know he could be value owning himself, but.
So, did you ever find out what the guy had?
So I asked him about an hour later, and he said he had a set, like very confident. He's like, "Oh, I had a set," and I don't believe him there.
That doesn't make any sense.
Set.
I know.
And the only set is like he puts me on a straight, and then he has aces with the ace of diamonds, and he gets pissed off and rips it. But
that's.
I mean, I was thinking about some bluffs. Maybe like, what are your thoughts on like kings with the king of diamonds, or he could have. I don't think he's doing that on turn with kings.
I mean, kings with the king of diamonds, it's interesting because when you take a look at your sort of defending range he's trying to get you off of an ace. He blocks ace king. So ace queen and ace jack are aces up types of hands. Ace 10 on ace queen 8 jack is open-ended, right? So ace 10's not folding. So what is he trying to get you off of, like ace 6 suited or something like that? It just seems like a very... Right? You know what I'm saying? Like all the ace acts that you're defending with is usually going to be some of the higher variety of kickers, and they all connect on turn. So, I mean, I don't know. But I would have called though. I would have called. I understand what you're saying that it's a lot of money and stuff, but you gotta find some hands though, to call with.
I agree with that.
But
there's not that many combos of diamonds he has there.
Yeah. Anyways, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Well, that is it. Sorry, guys. I missed the music in the beginning. Let me find the song that I was looking at back in the 90s. Anyways, I am going to be... here we go. This is what I wanted to do. I'm going to be commenting TCH Live tonight at 7 Eastern. 7 Eastern, 4 hours. 4 hours of cash game action over there. Let's see if I can find a better version of this song. And we'll be back at the regular time next week, on October 12th. And if you want to submit to be on the show, you can do so by emailing Bart at crushlivepoker.com. Bart at crushlivepoker.com. I try to read every single email that I get for hands, so I always give priority to the CLP subscribers. And we'll be back at a regular time next week at 5:45 Eastern Time. So be sure to join me tonight in about 3 hours if you want to watch some great cash game action. Check out Brad Owen on Thursday.